Hi guys, this is Text Driller class economics. The topic of discussion is theory of demand. At the end of this class, you should be able to understand the meaning of demand. You should be able to know the classification of demand. You should be able to know the laws of demand. You should be able to know demand schedule, demand curve, angel curve. You should be able to understand the determinants of demand. We are going to look at the types of demand. You should be able to understand change in demand, change in quantity demanded, the difference between the two of them. You should be able to know what is called abnormal demand. Then you should be able to know the elasticity of demand and the types of elasticity of demand. Now let's begin with the meaning of demand. Now, when we talk about demand, we refer to buyers, consumers. So demand for goods and services refers to buyers and consumers. So demand refers to the quantity of goods and services that a consumer is willing and able to buy at a particular period and at a given price. So demand relates to buyers and customers of goods and services. It's important to know that demand is not want, because demand is the quantity of goods and services that a consumer is willing and able to buy. So the willingness and ability of consumers to pay for a commodity makes it a demand. Let's look at the other aspect, which is the classification of forms of demand. So we have two classification of demand. We have effective demand and ineffective demand. Effective demand is a form of demand that has consumers' willingness and ability to pay for a commodity. So if there's willingness and ability of consumers to pay for a commodity, there is an effective demand. Then ineffective demand is a form of demand that does not have willingness and ability of consumers to pay for a commodity. So ineffective demand is usually referred to as want. Let's look at the next subtopic, which has to do with laws of demand. Ceteris paribus. This is a Latin word, which means other things being equal. The higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded, and vice versa, which means other things being equal. When price of commodities increase, the quantity demanded of commodities by consumers will reduce, and when the price reduces, the quantity demanded by consumers will increase. The next aspect is demand schedule. Demand schedule is used to further explain the laws of demand. Demand schedule is a table that shows an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded of consumers. So we have two kinds of demand schedule. We have the individual demand schedule and the market demand schedule. The individual demand schedule is a demand schedule that is meant for a particular consumer only in the market. For example, you have a table on your screen which is for Dre. So Dre's demand schedule, you can see the price and quantity demanded. At 1 naira, quantity demanded was 10 units. And when the price increased to 2 naira, quantity demanded reduced to 8 units. When the price increased to 3 naira, quantity demanded reduced towards 6 units. When the price was 4, quantity demanded reduced to 4 units. And when the price was increased to 5 naira, quantity demanded reduced to 2 units, which means that as price increases, quantity demanded reduces. This is to explain the laws of demand. Then we have the market demand schedule. Market demand schedule is a demand schedule that is meant for different consumers in a market. Let's take a look at a table. We have price of 1 naira to 5 naira, and we have different consumers. We have Dre, quantities demanded. We have Mr. B's quantity demanded. We have Mr. Excel's quantity demanded, and we have KOJ's quantity demanded. If you look at this quantity demanded at 1 naira, the quantity demanded by consumers differs. And if you add up all their quantity demanded, you get the total quantity demanded by these consumers, which means as the price increases, all their individual quantity reduces and the total quantity kept reducing. This is what we call market demand schedule. Then let's look at the other subtopic, which is demand curve. Demand curve is a graphical representation of indirect relationship between price and quantity demanded. So a graph that shows indirect relationship between price and quantity demanded is demand curve. As you can see on your screen, you can see the y-axis is the price, the x-axis is the quantity demanded. As price reduces, all right, as price increases, quantity demanded increase. As price reduces, quantity demanded increases. When we had 5 naira, quantity demanded was 2. When we have 4 naira, quantity demanded was 4. When we have 3 naira, quantity demanded was 6. When we have 2 naira, quantity demanded was 8. And when they had 1 naira, quantity demanded was 10 units. This shows that this further explains the laws of demand. As you can see from the note, that demand curve slopes downward from left to right, which is obeying the laws of demand. The relationship between price and quantity demanded is inverse, negative, or indirect. It was established from the laws of demand. From the laws of demand, we have it that ceteris paribus, the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded, which shows that relationship between price and quantity demanded is inverse. Now let's take a look at angel curve. Angel curve is a graphical representation of relationship between consumers' income and quantity of goods demanded. We have two kinds of angel curve. We have the positive angel curve and we have the negative angel curve. The positive angel curve shows a direct relationship between consumers' income and quantity of goods demanded. As you can see on your screen, the graph, which means that as consumers' income increases, quantity of goods demanded will increase and vice versa. This shows that when income increases, quantity of goods demanded. When income reduces, quantity of goods what? Demanded reduces. This type of angel curve is meant for normal goods and ostentatious goods or luxury goods. The question is, what are normal goods? Normal goods are goods that consumers demand for without strings attached to them. So consumers demand them without any condition. So ostentatious goods or luxury goods are goods that consumers demand for in order to boost their ego. They are goods that consumers demand for so as which is meant for their social status, which means there are conditions for demanding for such commodity. So at higher income, consumers will demand more of such commodity. The next is let's look at example of ostentatious goods. They are your exotic cars, expensive phones, designer wares, and the likes. Now, negative angel curve is the angel curve that has indirect relationship between consumers' income and quantity of goods demanded. As you can see on the graph, as the income reduces, quantity of goods demanded increases and vice versa. So a negative angel curve is meant for inferior or given goods. And inferior goods is any commodity that has indirect relationship with consumers' income. An example is basic foodstuff and low quality product. So low income earners will buy more of basic foodstuff or low quality products at higher income, at lower income rather. At lower income, low income earners will buy more of basic foodstuffs and low quality products. At higher income, they'll buy less of them. That's an example of what? Negative angel curve. Let's take a look at the determinant of demand. Determinant of demand refers to the factors that influence quantity of goods demanded by consumers. And we have them on your screen. Number one, you have price of the commodity. From the laws of demand, you know the effect of price of the commodity on goods and services, which means that the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded and vice versa, other things being equal. Number two, price of other commodities. When we get to the types of demand, we understand more about price of other commodities. Number three is the income of consumers. Other things being equal, income has a positive relationship with quantity of goods demanded, which means other things being equal, the higher the income, the higher the quantity demanded and vice versa. which means we are looking at the commodity as a normal good. If we are not considering condition, we ask ourselves, is the commodity an inferior goods or given goods? If the commodity is an inferior or given goods, it shows that such income we have indirect relationship with such consumers' income, we have indirect relationship with given goods or inferior goods, which means at higher income, quantity demanded of given or inferior goods will reduce. At lower income, quantity demanded will increase. Then, if not consider conditions, if the commodity is an ostentatious goods or a luxury goods, which means that income of consumers is directly related to ostentatious or luxurious goods, which means at higher income, consumer will demand more of ostentatious goods. At lower income, they will demand less of ostentatious goods. Number four, we have tax imposed on consumers' income. The higher the tax, the lesser the disposable income of consumers, which means that tax determines the purchasing power of the consumers. If tax increases, quantity demanded will reduce because disposable income of consumers has reduced. And if tax reduces, disposable income will increase. Quantity demanded by consumers will also increase. Number next is government policies. Government policies influence quantity of goods demanded. As you can see, we are in the post-pandemic period. During the pandemic until date, consumers like us, we've bought so many sanitizers. We are still buying nose mask so as to prevent ourselves from the deadly virus. That is the policy of government. In order to be safe of the deadly disease, we are told to use nose mask, to sanitize or wash our hand regularly. So all these are policies made by the government which has made our demand for sanitizers and nose masks to increase. So policies of government increase quantity of goods demanded. Number six, expectation of future change in price of commodities. If a consumer notices that the price of commodities will increase in future, consumers will buy more at present. If a consumer notices that price of commodities will fall in future, consumers will buy less at the moment. So weather condition also influence quantity of goods demanded. So if weather condition is not favorable to a commodity, consumer will buy less. If the weather condition is favorable, consumers will buy more. Number eight is influence of adverts, taste, and fashion. Adverts increases quantity of goods demanded by consumers. Taste has to do with the preference of consumers. So preference of consumers also determine the quantity demanded by them. Fashion deals with what is trending. So what is trending also influence quantity of goods demanded by consumers. Number nine is population. Population of consumers influence quantity of goods demanded. So these are the factors that influence quantity of goods demanded by consumers.